Retro Future.
Hello everyone, this is Bonsert and you're watching Steampunkish. Unlike the stereotype would dictate, I am not a big fan of the airship trope that steampunk is known for. Yet, in one of my favorite series, airships and aerial combat is front and center of all the action, and that is the anime I want to talk about today, Last Exile. For those that are not aware, in this series of videos I explain to my audience why fans of steampunk or retrofuturism in general should check out certain media. Also, this is a companion video to a series of lore related content on our second channel, the Retro Future Research Foundation, where we recently published a pilot of this new series of lore related content. In this case, the third battle of Minigis from the Last Exile series. And with that out of the way, let's check out Last Exile. The anime was released by Studio Gonzo in 2003. In 2011, a sequel series, Last Exile, Femme, the Silver Wing, was released as an anniversary celebration of sorts, together with a short manga, Last Exile, The Travelers of the Hourglass, that filled in the gap kinda between the two anime. In 2005, there were rumors that a live-action adaptation was being considered by New Line Cinema. It is claimed that in 2009 concept art of this film was leaked. Unfortunately, I cannot confirm this. If there's anyone out there who knows more about this leak and the leaked art, I'd love to hear it. But that being said, I think it is very obvious this adaptation never came to be. In 2011 we did get Femme the Silver Wing, but I decided not to talk about it in this video because if I said I didn't like it that much, that would be an understatement. My feelings on the show can be summarized as Last Exile, or as written and directed by J.J. Abrams. Now, if you like J.J. Abrams adaptations, maybe you'll like Femme the Silver Wing. Now, I have a severe bias here, so I want you to watch this show and judge it for yourself. But when I managed to force myself to watch the recap film of the show, Femme the Silver Wing Over the Wishes, yes, that's what they named it, it made me remember all the reasons why I found this show so cringy, if not infuriating. But at least it didn't ruin the characters of the first season. For the most part. What I will talk about is the first season from 2003, which I watched again for this video. And I cannot tell you, I just love this show despite all its shortcomings. Now, the original show is very run-of-the-mill hero journey type fare, with many scenes and plots being very reminiscent of Star Wars. This is probably not a coincidence, as originally it was intended to be a kind of a space opera type show. And the world are so unique that makes it stand out from most anime. The initial concept was designed by Ranj Murata, who was given an unlimited budget and a few weeks time to develop a sci-fi setting. Murata has done other works for companies like Gonzo and is known for his use of Art Deco in his character designs. Last Exile is no exception. The definitive style of the show draws inspiration from Art Deco, Bauhaus, interbellum fashion and machines, and chess pieces. It creates a wholly unique world that makes it the reason why people remember the series decades after its conception. Speaking of unique worlds, the world of Prester is hourglass shaped. I have no idea why, and until I started researching the subject in depth, I didn't even realize this was the case. A matter of fact, it's a great shame many of the things go under or unexplained in this series. Now, I don't want to do spoilers here, but you can guess this is an artificial planet. Originally, this was to be a series set in space and have 2 seasons. Fortunately enough for us, they abandoned the space idea, but also the second season. Instead, we got this 10 years later, and again, I'm not a fan of them. Anyway, Last Exile is a bit too ambitious for 1 season, meaning that certain characters go underdeveloped. So when I heard Last Exile was getting a sequel a decade later, I was really looking forward to this. Only to be disappointed. And with that out of the way, let's dig into the original show. Last Exile is the story of Klaus Velka and Lavi Head. They are vanship couriers in a world where the entire infrastructure of the Kingdom of Anasarai depends on airships because there are no seas in this mountainous world. Pilot Klaus and his navigator Lavi make their living delivering letters with their vanship they inherited from Klaus' father, and also enter the local aerial races. But their final goal is to traverse the Grand Stream, a violent storm that separates their kingdom from that of a land called Desif. But no one managed to do this until now, and also Klaus and Lavi's fathers respectively both died trying to. However, the Disiv who live on the other side of the Grand Stream don't seem to have this issue doing so, and regularly invade Anatorai with their air fleets. But instead of brutal force, these battles are fought in highly ritualized fashion because of a third faction called the Guild. These transhumans manage much of the advanced technology on Prestor, and they don't like it when their stuff is getting shut up by these two nations. For a full explanation, go see our episode on the third battle of Minigis for the nitty gritty of this type of warfare, how the ships work and what the guild has to do with it. It is very interesting indeed. Now, Klaus and Lavi themselves are just simple couriers who have very little to do with the grand politics, but that changes when they meet a little girl called Elle Hamilton, who is part of a 7-star contract. That's a 7-star on a difficulty scale from 1 to 5. Despite Lavi's protests, Klaus decides to continue this mission for the girl's sake. Unfortunately, this brings him in conflict with the guild and in league with a notorious privateer called Alex Rowe. The plot is standard fare for a coming-of-age story, but instead of focusing on how these two youngsters become the biggest and baddest pilot in the sky, the show's themes are about adjusting one's life's expectation. For this season, Klaus barely fights any enemy craft, let alone destroying them. It's more about how he changes his ambitions and what he wants out of life, and how this is affecting his relationship with Lavi, who is also his lifetime friend. Lavi, on the other hand, is bothered by this changing Klaus and the other girls that are entering his life, as they are settling inside their new environment on board a ship called the Sylvana. What is interesting about Last Exile is that it is a setting in flux. Just as Klaus and Lavi are adapting, the world is changing. The commanders of the Anatorai fleet must let go of their centuries-old military traditions and culture in order to overcome the new threats to their people, and the other characters in the series must make similar life-changing decisions. I would not call Last Exile steampunk, it's a future setting and very space opera-esque. It's probably no coincidence that many of the scenes seem to be inspired by Star Wars. However, the themes of change and adaptation within the traditional society are very closely related to the steampunk genre, which might be the reason I like it so much. I have to give credit where credit is due. The show is too short for what it wants to explore, but most characters get a proper resolution. So much so, even when watching it for the 4th or 5th time a decade later, I still feel sad when the final episode ended. I rarely have that, even when watching superior shows. But some characters do get the short end of the stick, Tatjana Wisla being one of them. She is an incredible, talented pilot that pulls off some amazing feats during the show, but it's clear her arc could not be finished and the writers are prepping her for a military role that doesn't really seem to fit a pilot with her talents. Now her arc gets resolved in the manga 10 years later, but that's because she's one of the few characters that make a return in Femme de Silverwing that isn't just a cameo. Oh boy, I don't want to talk about that show. That being said, at least check out the original 2003 show. It's definitely worth your time, and the combination of hand-drawn animation and CGI still looks amazing. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit that like button, and YouTube does not promote this type of niche content, so please share it on your social media. If you want to help me fuel my coffee supply while making these videos, please consider supporting us on Subscribestar or Patreon. And with that being said, I want to thank you, all the wonderful people that already are supporting this show. It really means a lot. CBG Spender, Steamy Wonders, Bowlerhead Tom, and of course our newest contributor, Kelly Manser. And don't forget, we now have a wonderful lore video on Last Exile on our second channel. Go check that out if you want to learn more about the world itself. And of course, make things your way. Good night.